Hello everyone and welcome back to my channel. In today's One Piece Treasure Cruise video, we are going to do another tier list in preparation for the 11th anniversary, this time for the anniversary exclusive legends. I also did one for the Super Sugo Fest exclusives, and you can find the link for that video in the description. Some quick disclaimers before we get into this one. Side grade super evolutions essentially count as a different character, so both the 6+ and the 6-star forms will be ranked. Anniversary exclusive legends are only available during anniversary Sugo Fest periods, and generally these units should be your second priority after Super Sugo Fest units when deciding where to pull, if Super Sugo Fests are of course available. Pirate Rumble is not taken into account for this tier list, so a unit might even be in C tier but be amazing in Pirate Rumble. And finally, as I always say, everything in OPTC is based on content, so a unit in tier B might be godlike for a specific quest, unlike a unit from the top 5 even. Quick tier explanation: top 5, pretty self-explanatory, the best 5 anniversary exclusive legends. Tier S, very high value units to own. Tier A, good value units, maybe more niche than the higher tiered ones. Tier B, still very usable units, but more niche and we do see them less often. And in Tier C, we have the worst ones. Let's have some fun and talk about some units though. The Oiran trio of Robin, Boa Hancock and Nami is up first, and they are definitely going into the S tier. They have a Super Evolution 2, which is a side grade, the Int version, which will also go into the S tier over the Strength version, for a couple of reasons. The amazing utility still remains, some extra stuff have been added in their kit, they have better multipliers, and now, instead of just providing a color affinity boost, they have the ability to provide an ore boost, and if an ore boost is present, chain boundaries, which is way more valuable of a combo than the color affinity boosting, hence why it's over the Strength version, but the bind removal from the Super Special is also awesome, and even though this is the first ever anniversary exclusive legend, it's also one of the best ones. The Scabbards are up next. I will place them in B tier, I think, and the B tier does not have bad units, by the way, this is still a very usable unit. The thing is, number one, this unit was mainly created to work alongside Super Sugo Fest Oden, and he is kind of outdated. Still a combo you can use though, especially if you do need the utility. 10 turns of attack down removal from the captain ability is awesome. Their slot manipulation is good, they can provide Wano slots, and they can also remove 5 turns of damage nullification, which is actually still to this day one of the best removal options for said debuff in the entirety of the game. But they only boost slasher units, which is kind of a disadvantage compared to other units on the list. Zoro is up next, who is also getting a Super Evolution during this 11th anniversary, and that is a direct upgrade. I won't include it here since it's not official in game, and I will place this 6-star form in the B tier, top of B tier. I think with the Super Evolution he can be boosted up to an A tier character, but overall he's a good unit because as a Zoro he has a good combination of utility, 6 turns of damage reduction and threshold removal, with some unique chain boosting buffs, which is great if you actually do need the diverse damage boosting. Next up we have Psy Ace, and this is the first and actually only unit I will place in the C tier. It's not a horrible unit, but I believe that the design kind of fell flat. He does have some unique chain boosting mechanics, but the thing is that you can just use better chain boosting units at this point in One Piece Treasure Cruise, so yeah, he was good when he came out, but now kind of outdated, especially if we consider the fact that he does not provide much utility. He can reduce 6 turns of burn, which is not much. He can manipulate slots, even block slots, which is good, but only for the top and bottom row. And you also do need to build around him a bit, but at the same time, even though he's not a unit I would specifically go for in a Sugo Fest, if you do happen to get him, it is still a welcomed addition to your box. Then we have Kid Luffy. I will place him in the A tier. This unit for a Luffy to have 7 turns of attack down and despair removal is awesome. Also, an ore boost for 5 turns, which is great, and then with all of the chain multiplier growth rate additions as well in his kit. If you can get this Luffy working at his maximum potential, so able to remove 10 turns of bind and 10 turns of paralysis from the captain ability too, if able to get the 30 plus stacks needed from his captain ability conditions, he might even be considered S tier. But because that won't be possible in every single quest and it's kind of a unit that you also need to stall a bit with too, I won't place him higher, but still a very decent unit. Then we have Sabo to complete the Bats and the three brothers. In my opinion, the best out of the three. He provides chain boundaries. He has the ability to provide them for 3 turns, which is absolutely awesome. His utility, 7 turns of special bind removal and damage reduction removal, while also locking your slots, is great. But he is more of a crewmate character, not so much a captain. His captain ability is respectable, but nothing to gloat about. Mainly good for his special, and even though he does have a super special, he provides a color affinity boost for Q-Psi and Cerebral, which is not the best, right? Still usable, but way more situational than the chain boundaries he can give with his special. Moving on to Oden and Toki, I will place them at the bottom of B tier. This is still a great possible crewmate if you do need the utility though. 7 turns of despair removal and paralysis removal is awesome. Slasher resistance down by 50%, pretty high. And they can provide healing and allow overhealing, which is good. From the super swap, they can provide an orb boost for slasher characters and also matching slots, but Wano only to themselves, which is not the best. And they can also provide a color affinity boost, but only for slasher characters, obviously not the best. In case you're wondering though why they are worse than the Oiran trio, because they can't do similar things with the strength version, I believe that attack down paralysis is a better combination of removal. On top of that, both of the units can actually provide color affinity boosting and overhealing / healing, but the thing is that the Oiran trio can provide a color affinity boost for more characters, not just slashers, and they are also a much better captain. But because this is a dual unit, you can get value from the swap as well, definitely a usable unit. Film Red Shanks I will place in the A tier. He's a great unit, to be honest. Something I really do not like about him, that's why I'm not putting him higher, is the fact that he can remove despair, but from his super special. And from his captain ability, he can reduce 10 turns of special reverse. So if despair is present, he is immediately nerfed, which is a problem, in my opinion, except if you pair him up with another captain that of course resists despair for Shanks. And even though he can ignore immunity to apply defense down, there's no way in his kit to get a conditional attack boost. He's depending on another unit for that as well, so he definitely cannot be higher. Still a decent captain though, can boost a bunch of classes and also, under the right circumstances, provide a good ore boost for them for 2 turns. And his special can be activated multiple times during a quest. Film Red Luffy is a tier above Shanks. He is in the S tier for sure. He's a great unit because he's a good captain, he can also deal with 10 turns of paralysis, and then he can ignore immunity, inflict enemies with increased damage taken, change all orbs into TND, but the disadvantage here is that he cannot go through block slots, which is very unfortunate. But then with chain boundaries and an attack boost, we definitely have a strong special. He also has the same disadvantage with Shanks though. He can remove despair from his super special, which means his paralysis removal can super easily get nerfed if despair is present in the quest. Next we have Strength Coby, who will definitely go bottom of B tier. In my opinion, this character mainly will be used if you either need his utility of removing 7 turns of threshold alongside maybe slot manipulation or anything else he can provide, or if you need the very nice captain swap mechanic he has. If you do need that, he's great, one of the few units that can help, but outside of that, he's not an amazing captain. He does not provide utility from his captain ability, and then with his special, the damage boosting is a combination of ore boosting and color affinity boosting, which is not the best combo. You can find it in other units, probably better than Coby too. Strength Blackbeard I will place low A tier, I think is good for him. because he does revolve around a very specific mechanic of applying damage reduction and then playing around that. He can ignore barriers and other defensive effects though as captain, which is important. He can also ignore immunity, provide very good damage boosting, and even play around different debuffs for slots, either making specific types of slots not advantageous for the crew, or reducing damage versus color type slots, for example, because he makes the slots empty and boosts them better. So it is very helpful in these kind of situations. I do think he has a pretty closed ecosystem with his bats though. So if you miss the bats, maybe he loses value, but with it, it's definitely much easier to build around him. Definitely one of the most unique anniversary exclusive legends. The Cross Guild is up next, and this will be the first unit to crack the top 5. A very unique and also effective unit. If you have them as captain, it is much easier to actually maximize their potential, because they have 3 different special effects, and each level, except the last one, replenishes their special to use again to get the next effect. Effect 0, as they call it, is easily the weakest one, but it does make sense. Effect 1 then gives very good utility, threshold damage reduction by 6 turns, fixed true damage, ignoring now by the way, to all enemies, and then also boosts orbs for 2 turns. And finally, effect 2 is extremely good, removing despair and setting chain boundaries for 3 turns. Something that can be very valuable. Effect 0 helps you gain access to Effect 1 if the unit defeats an enemy, and Effect 1 alongside the super special if they are captain can help you get access to Effect 2 after that. Of course, units with special cooldown reduction, being crewmates or maybe even as friend captains, can also be huge help. We are getting to the unique Captain Shift dual units next. Roger, Rayleigh and Gaban are first, they will go into the top 5. This unit has a lot and is very versatile. It does kind of revolve around critical hit, but because they can boost the rate of critical hit appearance, it's not that bad, but it can be kind of annoying to play around, I guess, for a lot of people, depending on the content. They can provide a lot of things though, so we cannot ignore that, because with critical hits as captains, 2 turns damage reduction and defense up, bind removal, completely. They also have bind removal in their special in case either you captain swapped or they are just a crewmate in general. They can manipulate block slots and slots overall. They can help with damage boosting, orb boosting for 3 turns specifically too, which is very good. They can prevent buff clears for 3 turns, which can be absolutely huge. As far as utility go, they can reduce barriers for 2 turns and pain, which is very nice, but also an extremely annoying debuff to deal with, and if this unit can completely remove it, might even be the saving grace for your team. The critical hit rate probability can be improved a lot by the super special and the captain shift, so it is important to plan the swaps properly before entering the quest with this unit. And to be fair, by just simply swapping, they can also reduce special bind for the entirety of the crew by 1 turn, which can actually be clutch combined with a special that perhaps cannot remove the entirety of the special bind, or even supports. Next up, it is Captain Shift Kaido. This character I think will be placed in S tier, definitely cannot be higher in my opinion, because we do have some glaring problems. The unit is strong, right? A lot of damage boosting provided as well, some utility with bind reduction, also special bind reduction for 7 turns, but the special bind reduction only for driven and powerhouse characters, which is important to note. And they do have extra resistances, but only for themselves as captain, for bind, despair, special bind, paralysis, and also if they are special rewinded, right? A pretty selfish unit as captain, but one of the problems is that in order for them to ignore immunity and apply burn, the crew needs to be damaged somehow, which might be too dependent on some kind of HP cut happening, so we can then also fully use the captain shift and get the conditional attack boost for the debuff that was applied through immunity. But if the debuff cannot be applied, the Captain's Shift might also be kind of useless, except if another unit can apply a specific debuff that helps, either burn or paralysis. The Oden Captain's Shift dual unit I will place in the top 5. I think it will go in between Roger and the Cross Guild. One of the main reasons, this unit can provide 3 turns of chain boundaries super easily just by activating their special, and in my opinion that is very valuable in One Piece Treasure Cruise. On top of that now, from their special, because they're better as a crewmate, 10 turns of paralysis removal, or boost enhancement, they can get Wano slots and allow the Wano slots to have access to super tandem effects, which can be important, but I guess it is more whale focused. The slot manipulation is definitely more important for the special, but we need to have in mind it's not like universal slot manipulation. It can go through block slots, but it only transforms them and matching slots into decks, and then these can become Wano. And then a bit more boosting from the Captain's Shift, the swap, and even the super special. And they do have the ability to actually reverse special rewind for 10 turns as captain, but in my opinion they're probably better as a crewmate overall. Another Captain's Shift unit is up next. We have Luffy and Lucci, this year's worldwide anniversary unit, which I will place in the S tier. And from their captain ability, they actually are able, if a crewmate or a character in the crew has barrier penetration enabled, just enabled by the way, so just the unit needs to be limit broken and have the ability. If you hit a perfect, they can in total reduce 1 turn of defense up, resilience and barrier. Barrier and resilience even without a perfect, but for the defense up removal you do need a perfect. I guess that makes team building around them a bit more limited in case you do need the specific ability to activate, since your units need to have barrier penetration. But they do boost more than just 2 classes. We do have Fighter, Shooter, Free Spirit and Slasher, and Free Spirit is included, so a plethora of units to choose from here and very good ones as well. For this character, it is easy to deal with Special Bind too, because just by swapping they deal with 7 turns on themselves, and then from the special 7 turns from the entirety of the crew. Under specific captain requirements, they also can allow 2 damage boosting buffs to stack for 1 turn. From their super special, they can manipulate slots, even block slots, to TND, and their own super block slot, if present, to TND. And they can provide a conditional attack boost, but not the actual debuff, which is not the best combo as we discussed with other units. And overall I would say Luffy and Lucci, they are a good captain, but overall as a unit they are more of an enabling unit, which means that they are not going to provide you all of the damage boosting themselves, but give you the ability to get a lot more damage boosting from other units if you use and team build properly around Luffy and Lucci. They definitely become a better unit the more well established your box is, because you have more characters to play around and team build with. Otherwise they might actually be pretty limiting in team building if you want at least to get everything out of their kit. Zoro and Kaku will be in the top 5 for sure. Something that is not always a positive with them, because they rely more on Luffy and Lucci I guess, or someone that boosts critical hit probability, is from their captain ability. For 2 turns of damage reduction and threshold to be reduced, someone that is either Q or Dex needs to hit a critical hit, right? That's pretty limiting, might not be possible if you don't have Luffy Lucci or someone else that can boost the probability, because they cannot do it themselves. That is a negative, right? But other than that, 6 turns of attack non removal from the special, and 1 turn of attack non removal from the base and super swaps. Chain boundaries and chain boosting from the special, which is an absolutely amazing combination, and they also have the ability to boost already existing buffs as well, or extend them. And then from their super swap, they can ignore immunity and apply 100% defense down, which can be helpful to enable conditional attack boosting from another unit. They cannot do it, unfortunately. Maybe they would be broken if they would, I don't know. but on top of that, they provide an ore boost and an attack boost. You can override these buffs because they are pretty low, but in specifically stages with mini-bosses before the final stage, not only the super swap but also the base swap can be extremely helpful. The base swap though does not provide an ore boost as well, only an attack boost. Let's talk about a snake. I will place here top of A tier. Just a good unit, to be honest. As captain, she resists bind, despair, special bind and paralysis for herself, but special rewind for the entirety of the crew. Then for her special, damage boosting, 7 turns of defense up removal, mellow application if possible too, and from the super special, full slot manipulation even through block slots to TND, which is always very good, alongside some extra utility. Pretty straightforward stuff, to be honest, not a lot to say here, just overall a great unit. And for the final 2 units, one will be the best anniversary exclusive legend, the other one will go at the top of A tier under a snake. You guessed it, Roger will go into the top 5, Katakuri and Big Mom will go into the A tier. For Katakuri and Big Mom, another captain shift unit, they do have something that I discussed with the Kaido unit, so you need to be damaged with them as captain in order for them to ignore immunity and apply debuffs. But the problem is they are way more dependent in their kit, even with their captain shift ability, on the enemy having debuffs than the Kaido captain shift unit is. And on top of that, in my opinion, they don't actually have the best combination of utility. 7 turns of despair, but with slot bind removal. Slot bind removal is pretty nice. If you do need it, they're great, but if you don't and they just remove despair, you might as well use another despair removing or resisting unit. They have very good slot manipulation though and a good ore boost, but overall I'm not a fan of specific parts of their kit, hence why I am not placing them higher. And for 10th anniversary Roger, he's a beast, universal captain as well, very good utility, 10 turns of special bind removal as captain, and with his special 7 turns of defense up and 7 turns of attack down, very good combination. He can then even increase the duration of buffs from his super special and can provide tons of buffs from his special depending on your captain. So he is versatile if he's not captain too, but if he is captain, you get everything. Color affinity boosting, attack boosting and orb boosting for 2 turns, and if you extend them for 3 turns with his super special, which means for 2 different stages. An amazing unit to own and deservingly the best out of the anniversary exclusive legends, especially for new players. And that is my full anniversary exclusive legend tier list. Tell me your thoughts in the comments down below. You can also check my full Super Sugo Fest legend tier list by clicking the video on the left. And as always, thank you so much for watching, take care, and I'll see you in the next one.